All right, guys, in this video, I'm gonna be talking about silence in negotiation. This is obviously, it's a psychology video as most of my videos are, and I'm gonna explain to you guys why you have to be silent in negotiation and what that actually means when it comes to dropping the price, going over the terms, whatever it may be, right? And I'm gonna give you an example of something I literally did in the past 2 days that proves that this works every single time, right? So I had a real estate, a deal came about Saturday. I had been working the client for about 2 weeks. Then their agent comes into the deal and wants to make a contract and starts negotiating, right? So the house was $415,000, right? That's the price I want to sell it at. And then they wanted to basically come in really low at $390. So we're at about $25,000 difference, right? I'm willing to budge on price because real estate's a product where you have a lot of room. Obviously, we're going to make a lot of money either way. But obviously I want to save the deal as much as I can and generate the most profit as much as possible. So what we ended up doing, me and my seller ended up talking, and we were like, all right, we'll come down to 410,000. We'll take $5,000 off the price. That's it. And now they want to be at 390. We say we'll go to 410. That's it. That's our final offer. I'm going to be firm at that price, right? And there's a few other things that you guys might not understand, but I normally take a $10,000 deposit. They gave a $5,000 deposit. That's fine. Not a big deal to me. They want to close in 30 days. That's normal. So now remember this is going to be very, very good when it comes to talk about silence and negotiation. I already gave them something like a credit basically. So I already did something for them that I don't normally do for people, which is I took a $5,000 deposit instead of a $10,000 deposit. Remember that when later in the explanation, right? So they want to be at 390. I'm at 410. Now they come back to me. This was yesterday. They came back to me. They said, look, we'll come up to 400. So we'll meet in the middle, right? And they were like, this is our final and best offer. They basically said either 400 or no deal. And I said, I'm going to stand firm on our price at 410. We're firm here. We're comfortable here. We're willing to do the deal here. Back to what I just said, I already gave you something that I don't normally give people, which is I let you guys do a $5,000 deposit instead of a $10,000 deposit. It's very rare that I do that. I did a favor for you guys specifically. Now, psychologically, they feel like they owe me something. They feel like they owe me something because I did them a favor that I don't normally do for people, which is true. That's how the brain works though. I explained to them that I did something that I don't normally do for you. I went out on a limb for you. And now you owe me. That's what the brain thinks. Their brain's going to start to think subconsciously that they owe me something because I gave them something that I don't normally give everybody, right? So I say, I'm firm at 410. I'll let you do $5,000 deposit. We can close in 30 days. That's what it's going to be. They text me back. They said, well, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry. I guess we're going to have to move on and we're going to keep looking at other houses. And I said, sounds good. Let me know if anything changes. And I basically called her bluff that you're going to pay my price because I don't believe that you're actually looking at other places, right? So I called her bluff. I went silent, sat there, didn't text her back, didn't try to restructure the deal, didn't oversell, didn't overcompensate, nothing. All I left her was, we're going to be firm here. And I already did something for you that I don't normally do for people. And then I went silent. Now we're in negotiation and I'm silent. All night, I'm silent, right? I don't have the bank calling her. I'm not calling her. I'm just gonna let them wallow in that thought that I already gave you something that I don't give other people and I'm firm at this price and that's what it's gonna be. And all night last night, I'm sure that agent and that buyer thought about it. The more they thought about the value I gave them, the more they thought about the product, which is the house, the more they thought about the deal. They said, the more they're thinking about how much they owe me, the more the buyer or the prospect is willing to move forward on your terms. So I wake up today, don't text them, don't call them. I go to the gym, I work out, I come out of the gym. She texts me back. She said, hey, we're willing to move forward at 410. Can you please update the contract and send it to me? And I said, I would be glad to. I'll send it to you here in a little bit. That's called silence in negotiation. That's how that works. The first person to speak always loses. The first person to overcompensate, oversell, get frustrated, get emotionally attached to the deal, that is who always loses every single time. You have to have the mindset of, I don't need this sale. I don't need your business. Therefore, I'm not going to come down to your level. And every time the person who's able to do that is the one who ends up getting the close on their terms. See, if they would have called my bluff and played silent a little bit longer, meaning like for 3, 4, 5 days, I probably would have came back to them at their price. But I was willing to do it first and they folded. That's how silence in negotiation works, but that's the psychology behind it, right? There has to be some sort of value that you've given prior when it comes to the deal structure, or it just comes to identifying who they are, their beliefs, their morals, and you have to give them all that value up front so that then their brain will feel like they owe you something when it comes to that silence and negotiation part. I'll tell you this, I learned this when I was selling cars when I was 17 and 18 from a GM at a Chevy dealership that was, obviously a rich guy, $20, $30 million guy. And he was big on that, right? And we at this dealership would sign, like, I don't know if you've ever bought a car, if you're watching this video, but you go at this dealership, we'd look at the car, we'd do all this. I'd have you fill out a credit app, how much money you want to put down, stuff like that. Then we'd go back to the what's it called? To the desk at the GM's office. And then I would basically talk about, hey, he wants to put this amount down. He wants his payment to be this is the loan. They'll look at his credit and say, all right, this is where we can give him payments. Most of the time, right, the guys would be like, I want to be at a $600 payment. But then I'd go back to the desk and my loan or my bank guys and my GM would be like, give me numbers at like $800 a month. So $200 more than the buyer actually wanted it to be at. And they would always teach me this. They would go back, come back to the desk. You know it's $200 more than they just told you. And they know they just told you that. So now you look like an idiot. But listen, I'd come back, I'd slide it across the table. I'd say, here's what we can do for you. That's the best deal we can offer. And sit there and stare at them. And it was really, really awkward. And I would always just stare. While they're analyzing the number, I'm staring. Now, if they come back to me, some people would come back, that's not gonna work, bro. Go back and get better numbers. That's not gonna work. There's 2 ways to go about that, and then I'll tell you what most of the time happened. Most of the time, people would just sit there and kind of be like, is that the best deal? And I'd say, yep. Silent. Yeah, it is. And if they're sitting there silent for too long, right? When I say silence, I don't mean go off your terms of your deal price. I mean this. So they would sit there silent for too long. This is what happened most of the time. I'd say, is that number a little high for you, I assume? They'd say, yeah, it's more than I told you I wanted to be. And I say, of course, I understand that. But let me ask you this, right? These are going back to my identifying questions earlier in the sales process. You told me you work a lot, right, in construction. So, your old truck's beat up. You said that you need a new truck, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, you said you wanted a red one. I found you a red one. I mean, this is the truck you want, right? Yeah. Yeah, it is, Tommy. It is the truck I like and I want. And you told me when we were driving it, like, you love the truck. You see yourself driving it every day. You already feel like you love it and you love it. You love everything about it. He's like, yeah, I did say that. He's identifying with his actions and what he said earlier. Nobody wants to be a hypocrite. Everybody wants to identify with they want to align their actions with their identities. And if they said all that stuff in the previous, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, naturally the human brain wants to act the same way they believe, or at least talk out loud. Nobody wants to just go back on their word, right? So I'm saying all this stuff and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, the numbers that you put, you said you wanted to be at were hypothetical, if I'm being respectful, Mr. Customer, because, we are the sales professionals here. We understand. But $200 a month, more a month is a short-term thing for short-term pain for what it is you want out of this car, right? You said you love it. You said everything about that, right? Let me ask you this. Do you eat out a lot? They'd be like, yeah, I mean, I tend to get pizza or something every few weeks. I said, look, for a few months, lay off the pizza. You can make this payment, as in your life doesn't change at all financially. But I never came off the price. I would sit there silent, but I would rebuttal the identities that they gave me through my qualifying questions in the beginning of the sales process. Now, here's what would happen sometimes. Like I said, people would come back and they would basically be like, that's not gonna work, that's not gonna work. And while I'm saying that, I'm gonna say, what would work for you? And they maybe are like, now they'll come up on the price. They'll be like, okay, I can do 750, but I ain't doing 800. I just got them to come up $150 just by, asking them a simple question. I go back, I bring it down to 780. So I brought it down $20, which is nothing for us. We're still making a lot of money. And they come back to me. I come back, I'd be like, 780 is the best, dude. That's all I can do. I went to bat as hard as I could for you. Take it or leave it, sorry. And I'd sit there, stare. Sometimes it would be literally like 5 minutes of them staring at the paper and then me staring at them. And the more awkward it gets, the more someone feels like they owe you. Because think about it. I just took 2 hours explaining you the engine of the car, taking you on a ride and looking up all this stuff, going to the bank, doing all these numbers, doing all this value for you. And you're really gonna walk away over $30 a month? No, they're not. And they know that. Their brain knows that. They know that they owe me at this point. But I have to be silent for them to feel that, because the more awkward it gets, the more for them it feels like, let's be honest, they're honestly probably feeling like I'm a piece of shit. Like I can obviously afford this. I just don't love it right now. But me being silent puts that feeling inside of their chest and inside of their brain, and they end up caving every time. And they're like, all right, let's do it. Shake their hand. Thank you so much. That's the art of silence in negotiation. If you can be silent, you can always win on your terms. But there will be times where someone walks away. But here's the best part. If someone would walk away on me on one of those deals, they'd be like, I can't do it, I'm gone. Leave them, say, I'm sorry, I couldn't do more for you. If anything changes, let me know, I'm here to help. 2-3 days later, they always call you back. They're like, you know what, I thought about it, I'll do it. Because the brain works like this. They're gonna go home for 3 days, think about how much they love the car, how much they like driving it, how close they were on the payment to getting what they want, getting their most desired outcome. And then they're gonna go, I'm literally walking away from my most desired outcome over $30. The more they wallow in that, just like my clients last night, the more they wallow in that, the more they're like, okay, this doesn't even make sense. This isn't worth it. My ego needs to be put down. I'm gonna go buy the car at his terms. That's how the art of silence and negotiation works. But you also have to be able to do this. You have to have the right identifying questions in the beginning of the sales process so you can know their identities and their beliefs and use that on them when there's a price objection. And then you have to be able to reiterate that, and you have to be able to handle the silence because it's awkward. But if you can understand that, you can get people to close on your terms. You don't have to always lower your prices, lower your products, lower whatever it is you're selling. If you can master that in silence of negotiation and master the identifying questions and rebuttaling to them when there's a price objection, you'll be able to close more deals, trust me. I hope this video was really helpful. I'm probably gonna do a few more of these this week, whether it's cognitive dissonance, a few of the reels that I've done well, that you guys commented on, that you guys have DM'd me on. If you have more questions or something that you maybe wanna see more of, drop it in the comments. I might make a video on it. Like, this is all for free. This is all for you guys. This is information that I've learned over the past 6 years from $100 million people, from billionaires, from dudes that are in $20 million, from car sales to real estate, to high ticket sales, to insurance, to all this stuff. So drop video ideas if you want them, because I will literally make them for free for you. You can DM me on Instagram. I will hit you back with a voice memo explaining it to the best of my ability. But thank you guys for your support. Follow me on all platforms at TBEUG. DM me. Hit me up whenever. I post this stuff every day for free for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.